So in this video, I want to continue talking about the CEO of JPMorgan, Jamie Dimon, who's trying to drag employees back to the office. He's in this article expressing that he wants employees to be back in the office 5 days a week. And it's kind of interesting that how far they are pushing their employees who are kind of revolting against this and constantly kicking up a fuss internally. And all the news articles and leaks that are going on right now are about, employees who've had enough of this CEO, right? So here we've got a little quote. He's saying that, I know people aren't always happy about being dragged back to the office, to return to the office rather than work from home. He says, I understand that the commute, I know people don't like commuting, but so what, right? People want to go back to their pre-work habits when they could work from home during the lockdowns and things like that. So he doesn't seem to care about that, right? And why doesn't he care about people commuting? And the truth is, one of the most miserable parts of the day for many people who work in offices is the commute. They might have to deal with a lot of traffic. They have to deal with the kind of miserable, depressing vibes on public transport, particularly if you're in New York, taking the subway, if you're in London, taking the London Underground trains. It's always a very depressing vibe of people around you, and it's a very negative environment. So some people really hate the commute. It can be incredible use of time and energy and money wasted on transport, on your car. And it's just a complete waste. And he's saying, oh, people are upset about working in the office because they don't like the commute. They don't like traveling to work. But the thing is, he doesn't have to worry about that, right? That's why he can have this attitude, well, people don't like the commute to work, but so what? I'm sure he has his personal driver, like a chauffeur. He probably doesn't have to commute that much because he might have his own kind of makeshift bedroom in the office, a CEO office. I'm sure they have some kind of private space where he could sleep there, and his own private shower, like an ensuite shower and bedroom. I'm sure that, even if he does live near the office, he probably has a high-rise penthouse suite apartment. He's a billionaire. He doesn't have to worry about these things. He's very detached from the reality of most people that work for him, even at middle management, senior middle management roles, right? And it really does make you think about how much leverage people do have. And because people don't have leverage, they are revolting against this type of dynamic. It says here, in an internal memo to staff seen by The Guardian, the newspaper, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan, and other executives have acknowledged that some of you prefer a hybrid schedule. And they say that we respectfully understand this, and we understand that not everyone will agree with this decision. And what he's basically saying is that, if you don't agree with the decision, we're just going to encourage you to leave the company, right? We'll give you a layoff after a few years of improving efficiencies at our company, right? And the fact that this internal memo has been sent to The Guardian, there seems to be a lot of leaks around this scenario. The leaked audio of Jamie Dimon, which I covered in another video, of him venting and whinging about, the whole work from home thing. And then this internal memo that got leaked. There's also a petition against working from home, returning to the office. Employees want to work from home. That's also been publicly discussed. So there seems to be many instances where people are really revolting against the CEO, right? Leaking things to the media, audio, internal memos, because they don't want to go back to the office. So it really does kind of make you think about how much internal resistance is going on around this. Now, JP Morgan have basically trying to encourage their employees back to the office by having a new headquarters set up. And it's this new fancy building that looks like a dystopian nightmare, but they try to present it in a very nice way to drag people back to the office. So let's learn a bit more about it.
New York.
Inside the 60-story skyscraper are renovations that Arena cites as ways to elevate the office experience. This includes 3 times more fresh air, up to 30% larger windows to maximize natural light, and 40% more hospitality space. The building will also be fitted with lighting technology that can mimic natural circadian rhythms, or even be customized to personal preferences.
Talk to me about the tech in this building. Is there any new tech that's really exciting to you? Any new ways you're using AI to help with this?
So I think all of the above. There is lots of new tech in a building like this. All the major systems, the elevator system, the security system, the emergency power systems, the air systems, they are all so much smarter in 2024 than they were in 2015. They'll know when you register for a conference room how you like the temperature, etc. They'll know when you show up at Starbucks in the morning or in whatever other coffee shops we have, how you like your latte.
How does that work? Do employees have to input preferences, or what goes
It's
on?
all magic.
Machine learning and AI will power these enhancements. Arena says the headquarters will also host 19 different restaurants, some of which include table service.
We want people here all day. We don't want you to leave. And we do a lot of events in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. We have our clients here all the time. We work the facility. So for us, these are great investments.
Arena says the bank expects to move its first 2,000 employees into the building at the end of August. By December, the remaining staff are expected to move in.
So there you can see, right? So they're talking about the internal features, more fresh air, bigger windows, and it sounds like a more hospitable prison, right? When you do kind of look at it. If we go back to the image that we had here. So it does look a bit like a dystopian metallic stainless steel prison that they're kind of living in and working in. So let's talk about this again in a bit of detail. So it just looks like somewhere that they might be trapped, right? These trapped in these steel and windows they can't open. And the thing is, what's interesting is you have these fancy billion-dollar office buildings and people still prefer their home office or working from home, even if it's cramped, even if they have a makeshift home office and they have a little small desk or they're working from the dining table at home. And what does this really say about corporate offices and how much people are strongly resistant to it? That they'd rather work from home in a small cramped little desk than be in the environment. It really shows how miserable the work environment makes so many employees who are quite productive. Then he's talking about having internal light changes to mimic the circadian rhythms, which is like the natural movements of the sun in terms of the sunlight increasing during the day and then decreasing it during the evening. So the thing is, you could have all these fancy features, these billion-dollar features in a billion-dollar building, or you could just let people work from home where they can be next to a window and not be stuck in the middle of the office where they're so distant from natural sunlight. And you can let people work from home and get their own natural sunlight rather than being pushed into the office. And then all these other dystopian features around, having AI and new technology to track every movement, security, air, your coffee orders, whatever your coffee preference is, temperature, what part of the office you're in. Some of these features already exist in these major offices, but it's very big brother surveillance type of systems, right? And when he says it's magic and then has this kind of evil laugh, it's just very uncomfortable for a lot of people, right? They feel like a slave. They feel like a monitored drone, like they're in a 1984 George Orwell dystopian novel. People rather be at home and make their own coffee than spend $4 or $5 on a coffee or even get free ones when they're being tracked like this, right? He also had a phrase that really stood out there, and it stood out in the comments too. We want employees here all day. We don't want you to leave. It's like, what is that implying, right? If you want people's whole identity to be monopolized, right, by the company, you want you to work there, to eat there at the restaurants, to shower there and work out there with a work gym. And some of these facilities, they sound good until you realize they want your entire identity and work to take over your life, and you're only maybe going home to see your family because it's kind of like a side hobby for you to deal with outside of the job that's taken over your identity. And sometimes I notice this, right, how they look at this type of design, right? You can just look at it on your screen. It looks like a dystopian building. And I mean, if you walk around any business district initially, whether it's in I've worked in New York in Midtown too, and obviously worked in London and Canary Wharf where we have the many banks there. I always look around and I think, are these fancy buildings actually impressive? Because when you initially look at them, you see them in the sky and they look like these super impressive displays of advanced civilization, and we've progressed so much as humanity and whatever else. But then you start looking at them a bit closer and you're like, do they look actually welcoming, genuine, authentic? Do they have positive virtues in how they create the architecture, or is it really dystopian and controlling and coercive? And some of these buildings do look kind of demonic, but let me know in the comments, when you look around some of the office buildings, what is your general vibe? Do they look bland, positive, negative? I do think there is a bit of a weird dynamic with some of these buildings. But anyway, so when they, like I say, they don't want people to leave, they're forcing people back to the office. And when you force people back to the office, and it really is close to kind of slavery, it's like dragging people back to the office, you're going to have a lot of resentment. A lot of people are going to come into the office, really hate being there, and you're going to sense that negative vibe in the office. The idea that people are just going to have that kind of several years of freedom of working from home, you're going to drag them back to the office and they're going to be all happy and cheery and learn how to play that fake nice character again that they've kind of enjoyed not playing is kind of a lie that they're going to learn the hard way. And what they're also going to learn the hard way is many smaller companies are going to leverage work from home to steal some of the star employees, the hard workers, the smartest guys and women to work for them, because they're going to say, okay, they can't offer the high salaries of these major banks, but they're going to offer a slightly lower salary, but you can work from home. And then people are going to pick that. I'm telling you, they're going to see a lot of top employees just leave these companies that just get fed up of it, because you do have guys who might be super antisocial, but they're good at doing their job. They're going to pick the work from home jobs. And then also, when you think about these environments, lots of people, they get their identity so wrapped up in this, but they don't own any of this. And a blink of an eye, due to one layoff, one bad decision, one mistake, the whole thing's taken from you, right? You don't actually live here. You don't actually own anything here, right? You can't pay for you might work in a luxurious $1 billion office block, but you're not living in an apartment nearby. You can't afford any of the apartments nearby, even though you're working in one of these fancy apartment blocks, right? It reminds me of some people who work in real estate, and they might sell $1 million apartments, but they can't afford that themselves. So it does raise the question, like, how much of the work you do and this kind of fake environment that you're in, and how your reality is so distant from it. So it really does make you think, right? How they kind of basically brainwash you and say, well, you're working for this fancy company, you should enjoy the benefits of it by being in the office, but none of it is owned by you. So it really is kind of a weird dynamic. And then also I want to talk about how your wellness, your safety, and your health, and all these type of things, they should be kind of private things rather than things the company has so much control and influence over, right? You should be able to work out in your own private space, whether it's working out from home, having your own commercial gym that you might go to, or your own community that's based around that. And that's the thing, a lot of your hobbies, they shouldn't have everything based around your co-workers and the office, right? Lots of your identity should come from outside the office. Maybe you go to the gym with your friends, maybe you have a local martial arts gym, for example, and you have a small community around that. Those are the type of things. Localism, not globalism. That's an important phrase. Localism, not globalism, is how you find your identity, really. And I know those things are kind of disappearing, but they're deliberately being pushed out by, having this culture of workism. If you haven't heard of the term workism, it's like racism or something like that. Workism is where someone's entire identity is revolving around work, which is what they want you to do, right? And this is the thing, right? They don't understand these type of issues, right? The people at the CEOs, they should, because I'm sure some of them came from more junior ranks and climbed up to the senior ranks. They weren't all just nepotism hires and things like that. But they're very detached from what's actually going on. And if we look here at some of the comments, they've got some interesting comments here. This person here says, going to the office 5 days per week is a waste of time, energy, money, and life. You can go into the office 3 days a week and get enough of the in-person benefits while enjoying more time with family, which is completely accurate in my opinion, right? People should have the time to spend more time with family while going to the office when it's needed. Then you have this little quote here. The world is going more digital. What you can do in the office, you can do better working from home. People in the office just love to gossip about others and barely do any work. So this is it, right? People want to work from home, they want better time freedom, and also here, if you look at the dislike ratio here, they've got 648 dislikes to 4,000 likes. And I'm sure many of the 4,000 who are doing the likes are not working at JPMorgan, right? So it really does put people at a disadvantage, and people have kind of fed up with this type of dynamic. Now, if we continue looking at this scenario here, the JPMorgan's internal tool shows that many offices are not ready for the unpopular return to the office mandate. Here it says, many workers remain unhappy with the return to the office mandate. One employee who works from home 2 days a week had already told their fiancé to accept a job that was 3 hours away when they found out about the return to office mandate. And what it says to go into their personal story, it really sucks for me. The 5 days return to the office works for quite a lot of people and those who live close to the office. But other people have caretaking duties, they live further away from the office. So it's more difficult to kind of be dragged back into the office to do that, right? So this is the thing. A lot of people, they might be dealing with marriages. They might have located further away from the office so they can buy a place to live rather than rent. They might have even advised wife or their fiance in this case that they're going to be based there permanently so she can get a local job, things like that. The whole thing is people's entire lives revolve around their work, which makes sense to a certain extent. But if your living location has to rapidly change now because they say you need to be back in the office by March, and people have to literally sell their house and go to renting a small apartment in New York compared to living in a house, you know, in the broader state where it's cheaper to live, it can really undermine and turn someone's life completely upside down, right? They don't care about people with real life issues like this, right? Going from, like I say, renting to buying an affordable home further from the office to actually raise kids and live a decent quality of life. And this is what I mean. The whole approach to work and this system's broader agenda is to deter you from having a family, right? They have an anti-family approach to work. And they're very anti-family, anti-reproduction. They just want you to work, consume, and waste your money in coping mechanisms to deal with this miserable type of setup, right? So this is the type of thing. People are really looking at what they want to do with their life now. Another employee said, time is the most valuable commodity, not money, right? Forcing us to waste our time commuting for no benefit besides real estate value feels demeaning. The company just doesn't care. Added a third employee who's already working in the office 5 days a week. So basically the company doesn't care. They want to maintain their commercial real estate numbers. They don't care if they're going to ruin your life, as in effect, by forcing you back to the office. Now, this employee says, I'm really against the full return to the office mandate out of empathy for a lot of colleagues whose personal lives will be turned upside down. A lot of employees have arranged our lives and made huge life decisions around being able to work remotely for a few days a week or 40% of the time, said a JPMorgan employee from the city in the southwest who, like others cited in the story, asked not to be named for fear of losing their job, right? So people can't even speak up about basic family requirements, right, of being able to, like I say, live a decent life. Now, just to finally show you how many employees have had enough, right? We went through the one employee who was rebelling by speaking up directly to the CEO, who got fired and then got his job back later in the afternoon when they had to avoid a PR disaster of him going public about him simply raising the question how he wants to work from home, and then the CEO's more junior tech guys deciding to fire him for speaking out against the CEO. We went through the leaked audio initially where the CEO was grumbling about people working from home and Zoom and things like that. We also went through other instances, people leaving comments, company surveys that people are making public, around over 1,000 people signing up for that. Now we have another thing, which is an internal message board where employees are reacting to the return to office mandate, and they're kind of complaining about it again, right? They're saying they had all this internal memo, right, where people could essentially post on these message boards and say how they're reacting to this. Now, typically, if you work at any company, I'm sure you all know this, right? When you work for any company, all these type of intranet websites, company websites where you can leave comments, people are just going to be sucking up to whatever the company does. Company does some charity work, everyone's going to say, this is so good, we're helping homeless children or whatever, right? We're helping people abroad who are dealing with a unfortunate disaster like a tornado or tsunami, things like this. This is so good for the company to be helping people. And then you kind of dig a bit deeper, and then you realize everyone's just being fake nice just to get their name on the website of someone who's being supportive of the company's new initiative or whatever it is. So what's interesting here is that if you have an internal message board and people have no problem with their real name being linked to critical comments about the company on their internal site, well, obviously their manager can find it, other senior management might notice all the names, and whoever had a particularly long comment paragraph complaining about working from back in the office when they want to work from home. It really shows you how annoyed all these employees are, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if the JPMorgan management is making a short list of people who are particularly resistant to working in the office and trying to screw them later by trying to give them a layoff a few years down the line, but not doing it now because of the PR backlash. Here it says employees could leave comments attached to the news with their first and last names in display, and they did, with more than 300 people who clearly know what they're doing. If you're working a corporate job, most of them know that obviously this could reflect badly on them in the sense they might be fired later for speaking out against the company. More than 300 employees said they worry about returning to the office, that it's going to impact commute, childcare costs, and work-life balance. According to people familiar with the matter who spoke with the Wall Street Journal, One person even brought up unionizing to keep the hybrid schedule. And then it says this reportedly led to JPMorgan shutting down the comments on Saturday, though parts are still available for employees to see. So this was leaked to the Wall Street Journal, right? So how many news? I mean, we've got Fortune, Wall Street Journal, Guardian. There's a few others I've covered, right, in previous videos. So it really does show you how employees have just had enough, right? And I think over the short term, you'll see people who will kind of accept the hand they've been dealt, whether it's a layoff, whether it's being dragged back to the office. I'm sure there'll be some flexibility that will be given by March, when employees definitely have to be in the office 5 days a week. I'm sure some of them will kind of negotiate some element of work from home 1 or 2 days a week, maybe due to looking after kids, because JP Morgan doesn't want a massive PR disaster. Or some employees who have mental health issues, and that's another way of getting some flexibility at work. If you're on the autism spectrum, or at least you can get diagnosed as that, it might give you some flexibility to work from home, to have a quiet environment to work in rather than a busy, distracting, over simulation type of environment in the office. So there's different tricks people might play to see what will work. But I think over the long term, with growing layoffs, with increasingly disgruntled employees, some companies will adapt to have good quality employees who don't mind working from home, who prefer to work from home. Then you have other people who be a bit more unhappy but stick around in the office. And then also there'll be the employees who are really happy to be in the office because they play the social game, and they do well at that. They know how to suck up to people, be popular in the office, and they're happy to be in the office. But there will be some dividing lines between the different personality types who do work corporate jobs, and some of them will pursue freedom or minimalism over being in the office and feeling like they're a slave. Now, if you're someone who's dealing with these scenarios, I've been in the finance industry for over a decade, Goldman, Morgan Stanley, HSBC, and many other banks and financial institutions. I've worked with C-suite level executives who can be quite difficult, to be honest, and I know these type of dynamics and how to navigate them, and that's why I have a coaching program. And there's a link in the description if you want to speak with me directly, where I'll help you map your strategy for financial freedom, to maximize your leverage, whether it's through self-employment, contract work, getting promoted, dealing with difficult layoffs, which many people will be dealing with over this year and the next few years. How to deal with office politics like this, how to survive and thrive, particularly being a man in the workplace, which is quite anti-male, and how to build that financial freedom plan so you're not in a situation where the rug gets pulled from up under you and you get dragged back into the office where maybe you might not want to do that. So we've covered in, I think, 3 videos so far around JP Morgan. Let me know in the comments what you think about their approach, how you would deal with this, and there are 2 recommended videos on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video.